In today's video, we are taking a closer look into pacing our practice. You know, deadlines, they happen in any profession, but as a performer, if you get a call and you need to perform within a week or 2 weeks, and it's a program that you either haven't played before or something that you maybe played before, but it was a long time ago, or maybe someone just got sick and they called you, and this is your big opportunity. How do you deal with that? How do you make sure that you pace your practice properly? If this interests you, then I kindly invite you to this new vlog. Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Nathalie, I'm a musician, and today we are talking about pacing our practice. And not just pacing in the ideal situation, because basically I could be talking about pacing infinitely. But I'm gonna try and structure it as much as I can around this specific time where you get a phone call out of the blue and you need to perform in a very short time. You have a very short deadline. It's basically a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it's now or never. This is your big chance. So how do you deal with this amount of stress? How do you make sure that you can perform at your best, even though your preparation cycle is maybe not as long as you had hoped for? Because performing, whether or not we like it, it's always an either-or situation. Either you know it or you don't, and there is literally no in between. A stage is brutal in that sense. So how do we make sure that despite the circumstances, you feel as prepared as possible? Let's find out. First off, you want to be as familiar with the pieces that you need to play as possible. And there are basically 3 scenarios. Option A, it's a free of choice type of program. This is great. This means that you can pick the pieces that you have already performed before. You probably have an arsenal of things that you know. In that case, great. This takes really the edge off. You know, the more you perform pieces, the easier they come back, but also you know the music. It's just freshening them up and making sure that when you enter the stage, you can actually tell your story, and it's a nice experience. Then we have option B, which is a bit less desirable, but it's maybe a program that includes composers that you have already played pieces from. In this case, you are at least familiar with the writing style of these composers. And just like with reading books, sometimes you read through a book super fast because it's a style that, is very somehow connected to you. It's something that comes easily to you. In that case, it's awesome. Sometimes it's a bit less so, but at least you know what to expect of this composer. And it's really the same in music as with writers or reading books. So yeah, that's option B. And then option C is, well, probably the least desirable one. It's where the music is really completely new. You have never played this music. You also don't really know the composers all that well. In that case, it's really great that we live in the 21st century because you basically have access to an infinite number of resources. You can get different editions of the scores that you can lay next to one another. You can see editor's notes. You can follow master classes online on these pieces. You can listen to probably an infinite amount of recordings. Of course, if the piece is a completely new contemporary piece, then that's a little bit more complicated, but nowadays you just write an email to the composer or their management, be like, hey, I need to perform your piece. By this deadline, I have never played anything for you before. Can you maybe send me either a MIDI file, some more information about how you want this piece to be performed? People are usually very talkative, and the only thing you can do is ask, and there's a pretty good chance that they will get back to you and actually help you along. So the more you are familiar with the pieces that you need to play, the easier it is to be super time efficient during your practice. Because what you can do is you can get your score and you can already make notations. You can make the hard decisions, what you want to do in this specific passage, what's the structure of the piece, what do you want to do about dynamics, color, write it in. Make sure that when you're actually sitting at your instrument, you can completely focus on making the music, and you don't have to decide, you don't have to make all those decisions from zero anymore. Otherwise that takes time, takes brain power, and you're basically losing a bit of momentum. Secondly, you want to tailor your practice. And with this I mean, in your warm-up, you're gonna only do those things or do the techniques that are required to perform this program. And not just go through all the scales and do some arpeggios and then do some etudes. No, you don't have the time for this. If your pieces require you to do repetitive octaves, then you're going to do that in your warm-up. If it requires you to do contrary motion, you're going to do that in your warm-up. You know, this is a time where you can basically practice the technique in order that by the time you reach it in your actual practice of the pieces, you have basically taken the first hurdle, and that's just knowing how to do the technique. And then you can copy paste it on the actual notes that you need to play in this piece. A second thing is record your practice. Don't record, you know, you performing the piece, which is also beneficial, of course, but if you want to be super time efficient, you basically want to make sure that your brain doesn't max out, you know, because it's doing so many things at the same time when you're practicing music. If you record a practice, you can, you know, go in a very specific section, you practice it, you listen to the recording, and then you can figure out, aha, this is what is blocking me from actually reaching the goal, or this is what's causing me trouble, and then you can fix it. Because if your brain needs to do everything at the same time, it just takes a lot of energy, and it's gonna make, you know, you're gonna need more breaks, and you're gonna basically max out very fast. So in order to avoid that, record your practice. And then thirdly, this is where familiarity is so important. Forget the idea that you need to practice your piece from the beginning to the end every single day. It's not going to happen. There's only 24 hours in a day. We have loads of things to do. Not only practice, you also need to eat, you need to sleep. You need to probably also keep working on other things. So be sure that by the time you sit at your instrument or you stand or whatever it is you need to do, you know exactly where the hardest parts are, and you can start there. And you don't need to start from the beginning to the end. And then thirdly, this is as much a reminder to myself as it is to you, but build in your rest. I cannot underline enough how valuable resting time is. Taking regular breaks, but also making sure you sleep enough. It's really going to make sure that you're not maxing out, because that is a big trap when you're under time pressure. You're going to want to go stress practice and, you know, practice as much as you can, and you're either mentally going to burn out or physically. You're going to hurt yourself, and you won't be able to perform either way. So it's really so important that you understand that some of the best implementing, and probably just the best implementing, happens when your body's relaxed, when your brain is relaxed, so when you sleep. And I don't know, it was in an article that I read the other day, and I think it was Marc-André Hamelin who said it, that if you have the choice between practice and sleep, go for sleep. And I agree with that, and of course it's not easy. We're all human, we want to do so well, and yeah, we want to just be as certain as we possibly can before we go on stage. But just remember that stress practicing is always going to have a negative effect, because in the worst case it's going to build anxiety into your practice, and that is going to show on your performance, and you won't be able to do the most important thing that you have to do as a performer, which is touching the audience. The goal of a performer is not to play perfectly. That's just a nice side effect from good practice. The goal is to build a connection with someone, and that someone is usually the audience, and most of the time these are people that don't know you. But if they can come to you after the concert and say, like, wow, you really touched me in this place, or you made me forget that I was in this hall, or you made me remember this or this or this, then boy, you nailed it. And that's really what this is all about. Even if you face huge time pressure and you need to pace your practice as efficiently as you can. So build and rest. And if it's not for you, then do it for me. No, seriously, it's really, really important that you don't lose track of this. And it's, I think, the easiest thing to overlook. So here I am reminding you and reminding myself to sleep, take breaks, make sure that you work out, that you eat well, take a bit of distance also from the pieces as much as you can. And then it's just gonna, you know, it's gonna result in better implementing of what you did before, and you're also gonna be refreshed to have another really solid practice session, and it's just gonna build from there. So this is all that I have to say about the pacing subject for now. If you found this video helpful, then by all means let me know in the comments below. It's always so great to hear from you. Maybe you want to give this a thumbs up, and that way that will be fabulous, because that helps the algorithm know that this is valuable content, which is you know, always what I aspire to do. Maybe you want to subscribe. In that case, welcome to the family. It's really awesome to have you here. I'm so thankful that you watched this video today. If you want to support me more, I have a Patreon account. You can check that out if you want to. I will see you again next week, Friday. And in the meantime, I wish you a very happy, stress-free, and wonderful weekend. See you again next week. Bye-bye.